Welcome to the Junto Podcast. We are here filming episode 25 and super excited to have a longtime friend, but not only a longtime friend, goodness, it looks like you're getting on the map, and we're going to talk to you a little bit today about all that you have going on, but make some noise, give a warm welcome to my good friend, Amber Craven, or most famously known, I should say, as Amber Rae Dunn. So, Amber, welcome to the show. How are you?
You can say formally. Now that I'm married, that is a former self that I had. Now I'm a married woman. Although I like to tell people that Amber Craven is who's married to my husband.
Oh, okay.
That's how I word that on stage.
And he's cool with that?
Yeah, because Amber Rae Dunn is an artist.
Yeah, that's
Amber Craven is the woman that's married to my husband, but I'm doing good.
I need one of those. I need an alter ego or maybe a stage name. So, yeah, you look great. I know you've got a lot going on. And for those who are going to be tuning in, whether that's Spotify or iTunes, I want to set this up because we've been friends for a long time. You actually used to babysit my kids. You were part of the family, and like we've known you such a long time. So that's history. How, besides the obvious way we knew each other, I mean, goodness, those were some good times back in the day. Remember?
They were. and I've never been one of those people that focuses too deeply into any section of my life. I've just kind of, as you know, floated around and let it kind of happen. And that was a very beautiful time. You have a wonderful family, and I really cherish the memories that I have with your daughters and the whole family.
I remember one time you were babysitting for us, and you've always been very artistic and creative, but I remember one night we came home, and man, they looked so dolled up, like that the makeup was done, and no, I love it. That was awesome. It was actually one of very cool memory, and I thought it was cool, just the history you have, and then to see, like you said, what's going on with all of your life with music and segueing into that. I remember one night we were having a little get together. This is when I lived out in Proctor, and I remember one night you were singing a country song. You may not remember this, but who would have thought that all these years later that this would have turned into something really cool for you? How did this whole music thing happen for you, and when did you know it's kind of something you wanted to pursue?
Well, I'll tell you who didn't think that was ever going to happen. This person.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have totally pursued it earlier.
Yeah.
And that's something I have to continually tell myself. And I love that I'm able, I guess, to spread the message to other artists that probably feel the way that I feel.
Right.
But I feel like I've started so late. And that's a hard thing in an industry where there's a lot of young folks and a lot of TikTok and just technology that you kind of have to know. And in the music industry, we have to utilize all of that and algorithms and things that the older you get, maybe the less you know about that kind of thing. And I have to continually remind myself that it is okay, because I didn't really find music till after college.
Yeah, it is okay, and it's crazy you talk about that because I'm in a similar situation. I really do this podcast, honestly, to kind of be community-oriented. It's always something that I've wanted to do. But like you, certainly when you put work into something, you want it to be fruitful. Like you want people to listen because so much work goes on behind the scenes. So I totally get that. It's funny you mentioned like the algorithms and all that stuff, because I'm like, okay, what is the best day? What time of day is the best to post? You know what I'm saying?
There is a time of day.
Thank you. It matters.
Apparently, I've also learned there's also a time of day to book flights.
What? Wow.
Like has cheaper, I don't know.
That's true.
I think it's like super early in the morning when I don't wake up.
Yeah.
No, but that and just the learning of the marketing and the everything. And I think the older people get, the more they just kind of want to let that stuff go, but you kind of have to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And like you said, I was just babysitting kids and singing in the backyard. I mean, I had no clue.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I graduated Memphis College of Art that I had a buddy that did music, and we were hanging out a lot at the time. And he was the one that kind of pushed me.
Goodness.
And when I tried it, I loved it, and I actually was decently good at it.
Right, like
sounds so random, but
well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised you were good at it, but tell me a little bit about.
You should have told me back then.
I know. Well, I totally get it though. And by the way, I want to encourage you because it's definitely not too late. I mean, I'm older than you, so if I can try something new, you can. And I definitely wanted to encourage you that way. But no, you have always been super creative, whether it's art. You've always made stuff out of like the most random things, which I think is still amazing. And then I could see how with the whole music thing that would kind of be a natural transition to you. But you talked about getting connected to a friend while you were in college. So tell me about the first time you got up on that stage, because that's like the main thing. Once you battle that beast and you get on the stage, once that's done, it's over.
But I'm a little bit like you. And like we do just slightly enjoy opening our mouths.
Are you kidding?
And people looking at us and thinking we know what we're talking about all the while. We don't know what we're talking about.
But we sound like we do.
We sound like we do. And we continue going. And our mind is able to like slowly stumble these words together in a sense that people thought we already knew what we were saying.
I know.
And we just smile like we did.
And then they actually think we're legit.
I know.
Like if only you knew,
Yeah, so that's my experience.
Yeah, it's still, I was in plays and all that kind of stuff when I was a kid. But yeah, so you're creative, you did all that stuff. And now, it seemed like, man, things were just really, you put out an album. Tell me about that process. And I want to set that up just because I saw it. I was on the outside looking in. Like I saw a lot of stuff happening in your life. You were connected. You made contacts with people who were in the industry, and then, man, to see that album come along, which we bought and I still have, my kids and I listened to it. How was that process and the inspiration behind all that?
Well, we're working on a new one, so get ready.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think, obviously with social media and any of that kind of stuff, you're kind of only hitting the highlights. You're every once in a while, I guess, if you really feel like you should share with your crowd or your people the low moments, you will. But for the most part, people are only seeing those highlights. But it is a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And at the time I did that first album, I was working at a studio. Wow. So thankfully, I didn't owe any money at the end of that project.
Goodness gracious.
That is a big deal.
That's huge.
And I was recording with 2-time Grammy Award-winning producer Mark Goodman, who actually just passed away. And that's where I'm heading after this. He's got a memorial service.
Wow.
But that was a lot of fun. And he was originally my lead producer, and my now lead guitar player was the co-producer, and he was learning.
Right.
But then that gentleman had a background in like old school country, and I naturally sound old school country. So when he was recording it, he brought it to me one day and he was like, Amber, I love your stuff, but it's sounding just like Dolly Parton.
Really?
And there's already a Dolly Parton. So I'm having a hard time. And we all knew my stuff was a little dated. But we were trying to figure out how to breathe a new, fresher life into it. And so Andrew's background was in pop, and he had never produced anybody.
Wait,
so
he's in pop? I would not have guessed that.
Oh, he sounds like John Mayer.
Are you serious?
You would love Andrew.
I mean, I've seen you guys playing together, but I guess I've never heard him do like his other stuff.
Season 3 of The Voice. He doesn't like me to tell people that, but
awesome.
He's got this like sexy, smoky, like he doesn't look like it because he's Filipino,
right?
But he looks Samoan.
Wow.
He's just a little thicker. You don't want to mess with him in a bar. He's a good bodyguard.
Yeah.
But he originally and still does do pop music.
Wow.
That's what he writes.
Yeah.
I call it soft pop. I don't know. I'm not really good with the genres. But so he was the one that produced Arkansas Line.
Wow.
And then Mark just kind of helped him. And now this new project, I'm going with a producer whose background is in contemporary Christian, which is a new little venture for me too. And I don't know why. I feel like I bring the country, so I don't necessarily need a producer or players that bring that.
Right.
Now, maybe one day I will go looking for that, and maybe that's where I should have been all along. But you know me, I like to float around, I like to experiment. And so I always get a producer that does something different.
I like
than
that,
what
though.
I do.
It might bring you, I like your perspective, because you're like, well, I already bring the country. So let me work with people who might be able to draw something else out of me. And what is it about? Because there's country, and then there's a little bit of that older school sound, which I personally like, that's my jam. I like that. What is that just kind of what flows out of you naturally when you're writing songs, or were you inspired to do that kind of music?
So right around the time that we all met, I don't know if y'all remember this, but I used to listen to, so my car, you remember Jessie Jane?
Yeah, still around.
That's my Camaro, and that's one of my new singles. But on and cut off. It never consistently worked. But around that time, Memphis had a radio station that was on AM, and I don't even really know how I found it.
Really?
But it played nothing but old school country music. And I just happened across it one day. And at that time, around the time I met y'all, I had a Beach Boys CD. I had stumbled upon the Beach Boys.
Beach Boys.
Fell in love. Best harmonies.
Yes.
I mean, they were just awesome. And I had always liked 60s pop. So then whenever I met the Beach Boys, I was like, oh my gosh. Then around that time, I think I was looking for something like the Beach Boys and came across this old school country AM station in Memphis and fell in love with that, because that's where I first heard Hank Sr., Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Buck Owens, like all these people. And it was around that college age. So I've kind of heard theories that whatever you listen to that brings back your college or high school memories tends to be your favorite genre of music.
I like that
theory I've heard. But that's still to this day, like if you go to my Pandora, the number one playlist is Little Jimmy Dickens, like Roger Miller. Like,
wow, yeah.
That's just the stuff I enjoy. And then whenever I go to write, I do feel like it weaves its way a lot into my music. But anything you've ever listened to. My brother growing up was a R&B, Casey and JoJo, Boyz II Men. That's all I listened to on the way to school, and I loved it.
That's Heather's jam right there.
My mom is Al Green. Al Green. Like if you ever want to win my mama over, take her to Al Green's church.
Now I know. Very good. Yeah, that's a trip. Speaking of that old country, every Wednesday on the Weevil, they do old country Bashful Bob. So my kids, like if we're riding around on a Wednesday and we happen to be in the car, I'll always put it on Bashful Bob. Oh, that's awesome. Because that's the jam, you know. And it is. I think it's a breath of fresh air, honestly, that you're interested in still making that kind of music. You know, I think it's not a lost art yet, because, you know, there are still people keeping it alive. Thank God for that. But I think it's such a cool style. I don't know. My dad listened to that old country too.
I think it's nostalgic for a lot of people.
So when I hear that, I think of Dad, and I'm thinking about, you know, that old stuff. So it's very, very awesome. And tell me about the new album. I didn't know. I didn't know if you were working on a project. I am. Tell me about that.
And I think sometimes I go so far into the old country because that's what I love. People think that's what they're going to hear when they go and they like download Barbershop or something, and they're like, "This is an old country." So I am just one of those Pandora's boxes that you don't want to open because you probably don't want to know what's inside. But we're working on this new project. Billy Smiley is the guy's name. We're recording in Franklin at Sound Kitchen Studios. He's got a couple of Dove Awards, which is like a big
Christian,
deal.
Absolutely. That's real big.
He actually, y'all might know his band. It was called Whiteheart.
I've heard of Whiteheart before.
I think it was like Christian rock back in the day.
Back in the 80s or 90s.
They're putting out a new album, and they're about to go on tour again. So I don't know if we'll get to finish our album because he's got his album, but that's okay. That's how it works in the music industry. But I stumbled upon him at a writer's workshop, and he just really liked my vibe, invited me to Nashville, and then we co-wrote a couple of songs on this new album. Wow. And I kind of have a date, kind of don't have a date on the release, so I don't know. Yeah. We had the date before his album and tour and all that kind of stuff, so now we're going to see how that goes. But Barbershop was the first one on that album. That one is out. There are 4 that are already out with an accompanying video on YouTube that people can check out.
Yeah,
and they're
I've
all
seen
on
the
Spotify.
video, and you do real well. Like your stuff gets played, and I think you got a lot of support in this community. And I know you probably have support that we don't even know about outside of this community. So I know that's expanding, and it's good. It's growing. Tell me, Amber, because how do you deal with discouragement when that comes? Because look, I don't really consider when that comes
daily,
right? Give us some secrets, because I always want to encourage people through this too. I always, when I talk to people, I always feel like there's always something we can learn about. People, everybody's going through something at different times. So how do you deal with that, with this process? Because I experience it with this podcast, sometimes I'm like, man, it's a lot of work for, not a lot of return. That's sometimes how I
Right.
feel. You know what I mean?
Passion project.
Exactly.
I will kind of preface that by saying I think you and I and a lot of us in the South and just a lot of people I know personally are very lucky that we were raised in religious households.
Yes.
And so we have always had what I would think is a stronger core, like foundation, I guess, to build upon just in our religious households.
Man,
and
that's powerful.
Well, I do wonder, somebody that really never knew God and has to find it on their own. And it's very exciting because you get to watch that person when they find it.
Right.
They're like on fire for Jesus.
Yes.
And that is a beautiful thing.
Very much.
But I do think that we just naturally have some type of a deeper inner peace that our parents instilled us with, that we're lucky we can tap into.
It's everything. It is. It's absolutely everything. You hit the nail on the head, because that would have been my answer too. I faced discouragement, and I think we all do. That's just part of the human experience. If you're human, there will be a point in time in your life where you're going to face discouragement. Maybe it's didn't meet a goal of some sort, or maybe it's in your own mind that you're like, this isn't working. But you're exactly right. And the thing about it is, Amber, like, I don't know that life. Like, this is my life, and I do have that foundation. I do have Christ, and I don't know how others do it.
Yeah, that doesn't mean we've been perfect.
Right. No. God, no.
Yeah.
I know. We know.
Yeah.
No.
And I don't mind telling people, I just really don't care. I'm that open and honest about it.
Me too.
And even, sometimes your faith wavers, whatever. But I do think we were lucky to be brought up in that type of a thing, which gives you this deeper inner peace that whenever you have those moments, it's almost like a well. I don't know my religious text very well. So I don't know if this is or isn't the right metaphor, but it's almost like a well you can go have a drink from when you need to, But also, for me, surrounding myself with positive people.
Yes. Wow.
You gotta have them positive people.
Man, that's huge.
Them negative people have got to
They can go.
My best friend from high school, who really taught me everything, and I miss her to this day, and I love her dearly, and I want her in my life, and I want to be in her life, but I just don't know it, and it's just and I can't turn back to see, but we had a little falling out, and at that time, I was moving forward, and she wasn't, and I couldn't, and it's just one of those things that you just have to have an inner peace about, because...
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Sometimes that's hard, knowing when to not to cut off, but knowing to remove, to separate. I put a little separation. Doesn't mean the love's not there.
No.
The love is obviously still there, but it is, and the thing about it is we change over time as people. The things that we may have loved and adored and had a passion for 10 years ago, we've gained wisdom, or we've gained an experience, or we've grown in our faith, or whatever it is. We are people, and part of the human experience is changing. So I get that. So that's awesome advice too for somebody. You might be struggling with maybe you better check the people you're hanging around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And just try to stay with the positive side of the people. I think those other ones, like I said, I've only ever had 2 maybe that I've kind of had to just really part ways with.
Yeah.
And I love them to death.
Right.
Like every once in a while I'll see something on my feed, or just someone will talk about them or something. I'll bring up a memory, and I just love them, and I love it, but it is what it is, and you just have to give peace to that.
That's right. And we have to think too, that was that season of my life, and there's nothing wrong. Hey, that
Respect
was then,
and move on.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I can look back on that and say that was awesome, but I can also acknowledge I'm not in that same place. So that is awesome. I'm thinking about, you talked about one of your videos being online. Every time I watch one of your videos, it just seems so hype. I'm like, dang, they really. No, I love that though, because it looks so well done. Like, it's so well done.
Thank you, Boo Kazungu, for that. That is my buddy that got me into music.
I need you, Boo Kazungu. What?
You, Boo Kazungu.
You, Boo Kazungu. We're going to connect.
There we go. But, he's for hire. we graduated from Memphis College of Art, him with a videography degree and me with a sculpture degree.
Wow.
And then he was the one he's from Kenya, Africa.
Wow.
And he was a reggae artist here in Memphis.
Dude, I love reggae.
And I first joined his reggae band.
Wait, what were you doing?
You missed this whole gap of my life, Jeremy.
What in the world? Okay,
I
so
know.
were you singing? What were you doing?
I am the whitest white girl. I don't know anything about reggae music, but I was a background singer.
Okay, perfect.
And me and several other people, and the joke, because they were called Yubu and the Africans. So the joke was that me and the other white guy were from South Africa.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We just thought it was funny. But we were doing reggae music for a while and going to all these open mics. And he was the first one to prompt me, have you ever tried to write anything? And I honestly hadn't.
Wow.
I always sang and, maybe made up little ditties while I was sweeping or driving or something.
Right.
But the word write, not really, And so it wasn't until I kind of changed my focus and thought the word writing a song.
Wow.
That it really came together, and I wrote Arkansas Line. And that's why I hold so much, like I always do, I still to this day always do that song. And people will say, surely you wrote a song before that. And I'm like, no, this is really my first song.
Yeah,
and that's why I love it so much, is because it kind of sounds like a real song.
No, it is a real song. Like, it is a real song. All of your stuff.
But at that time, I still am a big Loretta Lynn fan, but I was listening to a lot of Loretta Lynn and her Coal Miner's Daughter. Ooh. I call it a shotgun song because it's just like a line and a refrain, a line and a refrain.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I wrote Arkansas Line. And hers is this is me, this is all you get. Take it or leave it, and that's my version of that. So.
Man, I love it. And speaking of Loretta Lynn, I've always been a big fan. She's always found a way to be relevant kind of in our culture.
Yeah.
And I could see the influence,
she's
in
sassy,
your music.
And she's a good motherly role model.
Yes.
And, like I loved your wife's mother and just my mother.
Yes.
Anybody that's good, I feel like I'm good to children, you know, and anybody that kind of has that, it's
Yeah.
a like really hard thing to do. And they make it look so effortless.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always thought Loretta did a really good job. She had 7 kids and she was a full-time
Wow.
musician. Like, how is that even possible? And she was present with her kids.
Yes, yes. Have you seen that movie, Coal Miner's
Yes,
Daughter?
yes.
Obviously, yes.
And actually, her 90th birthday party, they're having this Saturday, and I'll be there in Nashville. Her granddaughter and Conway Twitty's grandson are doing a duet.
And you're going to be there.
Well, I mean, I don't know them personally,
Yeah,
but I
but
totally
still,
booked tickets because
yeah.
I wanted to go see them.
Well, how awesome is that? Crazy, 90 years old. Unbelievable.
I know.
Well, that's awesome. And like I said, it's just been so awesome from the outside looking in. Just being, I consider us more family than friends, but
Yeah.
just being family and seeing your experience. And you've done things that are televised, national anthem, and of course you've done big things, played in pretty much every juke joint in Memphis and probably the tri-state area around here. So
And we're still booking, so if there's
still booking. I know.
It is a lot of hard work, man.
I
Because I
know.
do everything. That producer records my material, but outside of that, I book everything. I send every email. I barely answer every Facebook message and Instagram and Twitter, and
Yeah.
it is so hard. I miss more opportunities than I make.
But
honestly.
it's hard. It's hard to keep up. And here's
By the time
thing.
I get back to them, they're expired.
And that's the hard part about being, I won't call it a starving artist. That's the term that you hear. But you're not just the artist, but you're the marketing director. You're the campaign director. You have the creative ideas. You're writing the songs. And it is a lot of behind the scenes. Like all this stuff, I edit it. I edit the video. I edit the audio. So I totally understand that. But again, the finished product is always what I see. It's always really good. And like I said, you have so much support, So tell us, what do you have coming up? I know you said that you have some events. Are you playing anywhere coming up soon? Or
I'm playing tonight. I'm trying to look at my date book in my head.
In your head.
Off the top of my head, I know we'll be at Elwood Shack on the 16th. Which that's just a little restaurant. So another thing you said, how do you keep yourself motivated or stay positive?
Yeah.
Another thing I just personally enjoy is playing as many different gigs in as many different ways as possible.
Wow.
Private parties,
Yes.
restaurants, wineries, juke joints,
Yes.
national anthems. Like,
Right.
I've got to keep it fresh.
Yes.
Because if I played that same bar every Friday and those same people drank their beer and barely listened to me and everybody kept requesting Freebird every time,
Yes.
it would just, it would be very taxing on my mental psyche.
Yeah.
And so for me to keep it fresh makes it always feel like this ball is rolling.
Come
Even though
on.
the ball is like, it's like the little wheel with the hamster. It's rolling, but it's rolling right there,
We're not going very far, but
No.
listen, we going fast.
But I'm getting exercise.
Come on. You're
You know?
getting them steps in.
Yeah.
No.
So that's one thing I do. And I do have a workshop coming up that I'm super excited about. So right when COVID hit,
Yeah.
the year before, I had done 5 different workshops throughout that year.
Gotcha.
Songwriter workshops, professional development, conferences, that kind of thing.
Wow. Awesome.
And really enjoyed them. It was my first time ever doing those. So then that next year, I was like, ooh, I'm going to do 10.
Wow.
I'm going to get those
Yeah,
5
yeah.
again because I really enjoyed them.
And I'm going to add 5 more.
Yeah, and I'm going to add 5 more.
Right.
Then COVID hit. So for 2 years, I've been waiting to get back to my conferences because I want to hit 10 conferences.
Yes.
So this year, I'm well on my way, I think, to my goal.
Awesome.
And the big one, actually, Music Export Memphis approved funding for this. So I've always heard that they fund artist professional development or
Wow.
tour grants or just
Gotcha.
things like that, merch grants. But I had never applied for one, and this one was a little pricey, and I didn't think they'd approve it, and they did. So I'm
Wow.
so thankful. And at the end of this month, I'll be going to upstate New York to do a writer's retreat out in the Catskill Mountains with Andrea Stopel, who is a professor at Berklee College of Music. So
Shut up.
yeah, I know. I'm so excited.
That's huge. How was the process to do that? I mean, my goodness, that sounds like super extensive to do that. So you're going to New York?
Yeah,
and-
I know. I've never been to the Northeast, so I don't really know. I'm still trying to book my flight, and it's at the end of this month. But-
Yeah, girl, you better hurry up.
Well, they
'cause-
approved me a little late in my defense.
Yeah.
And I was at Tin Pan South Songwriter Seminar in Nashville with NSAI when they approved it.
Wow.
So I couldn't, that was last
Yeah,
week, and
yeah.
I couldn't, book the flight and everything because I'm trying to coordinate with 20 other artists because it's a 2-hour drive from Albany to the Catskill Mountains.
Wow.
And I gotta I can't pay for that cab fare by myself. So I'm trying to coordinate with somebody else to share a cab. But
Are you taking anybody with you? Is anybody?
No.
It's just gonna be you.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh.
So I am the epitome of jump. Now, whether I can swim or not, we never know. But once you're in the water, what are you gonna do?
I know.
So I just jump, and Justin gets on me all the time. With this one, he's like,
hilarious.
"We can't afford that," and I'm like, "I know. I didn't think they'd approve it."
I know, right?
And then once they'd approved it, you have to go
well, yeah.
because this was a pretty expensive.
Well, that's
retreat.
crazy.
But I've never been on a songwriter's retreat. So basically, under the direction of this Berklee professor, a bunch of songwriters that obviously you had to send in an application,
Right.
that are obviously pretty good at their craft, are going to spend a week. And, they've got a kitchen on site and they take care of our meals. We're just going to be out in the woods and hanging out together and writing and co-writing
Man,
and throwing
that is
ideas off of each other
awesome.
out in the middle of nature and God's beauty.
Man, and I bet the weather's going to be amazing. You know,
Could be cold. I don't know.
yeah. It'll be end of April, so hopefully it should be good. But I'm just sitting here thinking, what an awesome experience. And talking about jumping, sometimes you do just have to jump, and I say that because life is so short, and sometimes dreams, you're only going to get as close to those dreams as much as you're willing to put in that work and take that risk and actually pursue that. And I know so many people never really achieve their goals because they never really try. In fact, this has been me talking about, feeling like you
No.
waited too long, or it's like, I have felt like that in my own life,
Oh, no, I still feel that way about certain things.
as she's going to New York. No.
No, I mean,
I feel
there's
you.
always things. When you do one thing, you have to kind of put something else to the side. So there's
Yeah.
always that push-pull of things you want to do.
Yeah.
If you're a goal-oriented person,
Exactly.
and you have all these things that maybe you have to slow down on that one to kind of beef up this one. But with what you just said, that's where those good friends and
Yes.
positive people and, just relationships with solid people that
Man.
whenever you jump and you're like, crap, I don't know if I can swim or not, you at least have some form of mental support, if not anything else. Like, my family doesn't even know how to use the internet. They definitely are not helping me send an email or make a phone call or pay, a hotel stay. Or
Right.
They don't know how to do that. But mentally, they're just good people. They can tell me positive things, and it just you got to have that.
And it helps. And I know your family, they support you. They love you. My gosh, I know that.
They don't have cell phones.
They don't have cell phones?
My parents don't, no.
Oh, my goodness. That is a trip. How do they communicate with you? What do they just call you?
Landline?
Landline?
Don't you remember them things? They
I
had
don't
cords
know.
to them, Jeremy. I don't know if you ever
It's
saw a
been a
phone with a
long
cord.
time.
But you used to have to hang out next to the wall.
Yeah. It's funny because talking about that support system, I've seen pictures, they go to shows. It doesn't matter. It's a bar. It doesn't matter what it is, your parents have gone.
Sometimes I'm like, how did they find it? I just told them where it was.
No MapQuest.
Well, right. And I just tell them where it is. And I don't have time to explain it. And,
right.
I'll kind of loosely tell Dad where it is. Dad's pretty good at directions, and like you said, they show up at it. So
I've seen pictures of there they are, but how cool is that?
Yeah. And they don't drink or anything, but they come to all these smoky bars. And one of my buddies, I bartend downtown Memphis for his songwriter night.
Okay.
And
awesome.
I do that to network.
You know it.
Because networking is that's how I have all these friends.
It's everything.
It's not like I'm just cool and I got friends like that.
Well, you're cool too.
Well, no, but I've had to work for these friendships.
Right.
But anyways, my buddy who owns the place, he always jokes that my parents are the only people he's ever seen follow their child to watch them bartend.
That is a trip.
And he's right, because they do. They're just proud.
Well, and I'll say this, and just I guess to kind of segue, cherish those moments. I lost my dad in October. He was my best dude. He's my right hand man.
I loved your dad.
Yeah, Dad was a trip. And he was like that too. We would hang out and do our thing. I won't divulge exactly what it was we did or how much of it we did, but my dad was my dude. And I guess to kind of segue, I always want to get. I want to encourage people through these conversations. I think it's important because these couches to me are I've had some amazing conversations and people really open up. But talking about loss, we had, but you more so had a very significant loss in your life. Gosh, what year was that?
On Saturday, it will be 7.
7? Okay, I was thinking 5 or 6. I knew it was.
It could be 6.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
But that'll be Saturday.
But
This
Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness
April
gracious. 9th. Ryan, your brother passed away, and we're connected. As I mentioned, we're family. Ryan, along with you, and you would babysit, but Ryan being the friend he was to my wife's brother, I spent a lot of time with Ryan. So how that is huge. I just think about people going through a loss. I know how I felt when Dad passed, and it changes your whole perspective on everything. How did you, and how are you? Because I don't think you ever stop. How are you dealing with and processing all that? And if you have a word of encouragement to anyone who might be walking through loss right now, what would that be?
Well, I don't know. I have a odd, I feel like, way of thinking about it and stuff. I don't know if the word process ever comes up in my mind. I don't necessarily feel like I have or haven't processed it.
Right.
I don't really care to explain that word.
Yeah.
But, I did just write and release the first song about that. It's called My Ryan.
Exactly.
It's on YouTube and Spotify and everywhere. But in the bridge of that song, I say something along the lines of and the hardest times are when I'm alone with my mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm always alone.
Wow.
With mine, Yeah. And that is very true because you can't run away from yourself.
Man.
And even though I had his was a motorcycle accident, it blew up on impact. There was nothing anyone could do. I guarantee you the guy that hit him didn't mean to hit somebody that morning,
Right.
Whether his actions afterwards were good or bad, but nobody just leaves their house. He didn't. He was just going to Walmart with his dad. And it blew up on impact. And, it's just one of those things that just kind of, ta-da, it happened and you can't do anything about it. And so I don't know. I just feel like I have this, in a weird way, inner peace of death. Whereas I was probably always a little afraid of death.
Right.
Now I kind of feel like, oh, well, if I die, I got a buddy up there, and he's probably a better friend than anyone I got around here.
Yeah.
Not in a weird way, you know, like.
I know what you mean.
But like my best friend is up there. So like now I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Goodness.
And in that song, you know, when I was talking about being alone with my mind, that is one of those things. Like some people, my sister says she talks to him. I don't talk to him. Maybe like mentally I think things towards him or something. But it's just one of those things that you just have to, you know, people say there's that cheesy saying of, you know, they would want you to go on, you know, and there are just so many like
cliche.
Yeah. Okay, maybe not cheesy, but cliche things that I don't really care to perpetuate, and not because they're not true, but there's just, it's like a feeling you don't know how to describe, and I know people have chosen to describe it with these cliche things, and they might work for some people, but they don't for me. But they don't not work. Like, I'm not sitting around depressed or anything. I mean, I do have my moments.
Sure.
I feel like it's a trickle.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little drop here and there that
Yeah.
you'll be at an airport and a little redheaded kid will walk by or something, and he'll say something to his mommy and you'll just burst out crying to yourself.
Exactly.
You know? And then 5 seconds later you composed yourself and you just needed that.
Right.
As far as advice for people, I don't know. I just feel like you have to keep yourself surrounded with those positive people and keep moving forward.
Yes.
And like I said, if you do have your little breakdown moments, let it be these little trickle of breakdown moments. And not necessarily because they would want you to go on. You know, that's so dramatic.
Yeah.
It's true though. But it's more like in my mind, I can't wait because I feel like he's watching me, and I feel like believed in me and all these cool things that I can do. So as I achieve them, it's kind of like high five, you know, like we're high fiving each other. And then when I get up there, I get to tell him about all these cool things. So it's not they would want you to go on. It's like I can't wait to tell him. It's almost like having a best friend that moved to Germany.
Right.
And there's no cell phones or internet. And your best friend said they'll be back in 20 years. So you're just kind of waiting for 20 years to finally see your best friend and tell them all these cool things. So it's almost like an anticipation.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm using the right words.
No, I mean, I don't think there are right words per se. I think these are your feelings, and I think that's, you know, everybody grieves and processes death or loss differently, and I agree. I feel the same way about like all the cliche stuff, and you know, you don't want to. You know, people mean well when they tell you that stuff, but it's kind of like. I understand, I know, but we all process our own way, and I totally get that. And you know, Ryan was an awesome dude, and I know that he was proud of you for sure and believed in all that you're doing. So great advice, you know, because there's so many people that are hurting all around us. And that's, you know, if I do anything through these conversations, I just want to encourage people, to give them hope, whether it's about following your dreams. Listen, you learned from us. It's never too late to start pursuing your dream, whether that's music, whether it's creating something with your hands, a piece of art or a podcast or whatever it may be. And then if you're like us who are going through loss, hey, you know what? It's okay to grieve. And it's okay to grieve in the way that you feel comfortable grieving. You know what I'm saying?
Most important. You just got to find your people.
That's it.
In anything.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a group of 3, like that's your people, you know?
Don't take many. That's all you need.
Yeah. And so whatever it is, even grief, they've got like grief retreats and stuff. At one point, my mom and I went to one, it was just a little church service, but then afterwards, this little group would pay for you to go on the retreat.
Wow.
And like go out to the mountains somewhere and spend a week, and obviously talk with counselors and stuff. But I just thought that was really cool that they kind of saved money or had donations and stuff to where they could afford to pay you to go, or pay for you to go do that. And I was like, wow, there are so many people, because not everybody's mind processes it in a positive way.
That's right.
My mind is just weird and it flips everything. And I'm probably the minority in that sense. I have a lot of blissful ignorance going on
Well.
over here. But for most people, it is a lot harder. And I do respect that. And I do understand that. I work at a barbershop in the daytime, and I hear a lot of people.
Man.
One of my last customers basically was giving his testimony about
Goodness.
the guy that had shot his son when his son was 17, and how this guy at the time was on drugs and drinking and all that kind of stuff. He didn't have his life right.
Right.
But his son was kind of the epitome of his life.
Wow.
Then his son got shot by the neighbor kid. He knew the kid. And he was
Unreal.
just dead set he was going to kill this kid. He didn't care.
Wow.
You know, he's a drug addict, whatever. I'm going to kill him. Told his wife and had the wife drive him down there. And I mean, it was just this whole story. And then told about, you know, the ground was shaking under his feet and Jesus, you know, he heard a whisper and it was this whole testimony.
Man, that's powerful.
But it was crazy. And now he's completely changed his life around. And he said, you know, the guy that killed his son is still down the street, but he's not angry and bitter anymore.
Gosh, that's got to be hard. You know,
That's what I was like,
woo. Hey, that's when you really do apply what you believe in that blood of Jesus, and it because only God could really take that bitterness and hurt away from you. But that's a podcast show all on its own.
I might give you his number.
Exactly. Like we need to talk to you, man. But that's awesome. And you know, I bet that as I don't. Well, is a beautician or what do you call yourself? Barber or
I guess technically cosmetologist.
Cosmetologist. So I was only going to say that as a cosmetologist, you probably have to become a counselor because you know people come in, they want to bare their soul, they want to You know,
Dad told me early on, you're going to be their doctor.
Exactly.
You're going to be their bartender. You're going to be their lawyer. You're going to be all of these things. Psychologist.
You know it.
Because for 30 minutes. They are your boss.
You know it.
I have 100 bosses. You know, you guys out there that have one boss and you complain about it.
Right.
I have like 10 every day. Don't complain about your one boss. Because my first boss that came in, he just had a baby. He's super happy. Everything's great and I'm cutting his hair and we're having fun. But then the next one, he's wanting to kill the dude that killed his son. You know, and it's just like every person that comes in. And then the next one, his wife just died. You know, and he's...
Oh, man.
I've seen Dad talk people out of suicide.
Wow.
I've seen Dad talk people... the best he could out of suicide, and then they've committed suicide after leaving the shop. And it's just, I mean, my dad's done it for 55 years, and
that's
you know, not only is being a artist and a musician taxing on your emotions, that is too, you know. It's crazy, but I feel like at the end of the day, it probably gives me a lot of ideas for songs.
But look, isn't it funny how willing when people are hurting, isn't it funny how they just open up? Mm-hmm. Like you don't even ask them, you know.
Well, I do.
Well, I know, but
I can't touch you and not talk to you.
I've been in some cases where it's like you ask a simple question, and man, it's like they've had that bottled up, and they're just wanting to open up so bad. And I think that's why not only are these conversations important, but I think doing the stuff that you do musically, creatively, I think it's important because people need that release. And Amber, I just want to say we're extremely proud of you. You know, we're fans, so we're going to support whatever you do. We'll be looking for the album coming up. And any last thoughts or any last words for anybody, could be on anything. If you just had to give someone a piece of hope for today, what would that be?
Ooh, that's the hardest question you've asked me.
Right.
I would say find whoever you need to keep you going every single day. And that sounds really cheesy. And I know there's a lot of self-love going on. But it has to be this real deep thing, like deep in your soul that you know. And I don't really know how you get that if you don't have it.
Right.
Because like I said, we were lucky to have parents to at least give us a guiding foundation for that.
Yes.
And not every church is for everybody.
And that's okay. Yeah.
I was going to say, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think you need to find, and it doesn't have to be a religious friend, but it really helps because God is with you at all times.
All times.
Whereas, I don't know. I have a lot of friends on both sides of this coin.
Yeah, sure.
I went to an arts college. I'm around a bunch of artists and musicians.
That's right.
And sometimes just self-love isn't enough.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of the self-love going on right now, and that's great. But I really do feel like there's a deeper thing that has to be there. Like,
you're saying something.
Mother Nature, God, galaxy. I mean, you gotta know that there is something way deeper. And I love the self-help thing. That's great. A lot of people are in positive moments of their life, and I love to see that. But I really hope that they take the time to go deeper, because once you have gotten that deep of a solid foundation, I mean, it's like a tree or something, like a tree with deep roots, you can just do anything and blossom anywhere. And, I don't know what friends or gardening or I don't know what you need in your life to find that depth of groundedness. But once you do, it's amazing.
Man, it is, and there's nothing like it. And it's great advice. I had someone on just a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying too, bloom where you're that. And I know you see that written on stuff, one of those other cliche things, but
I have that one in my house hanging up somewhere.
I hate that I like some of the cliche stuff, because I don't want to be cliche, but at the same time, it's like there is a tinge of truth to it. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, it's cliche because it's easy to remember.
Exactly, that's true, and you overhear it, but you're exactly right. But awesome advice. I encourage you to go deeper. Build that relationship. Like Amber said, not every church is for everybody, but we know that there is a place for you out there to seek that deeper connection, a deeper relationship. So, Amber, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon. Be on the lookout for that second album. What's the name of the album?
Yes. It's going to be, I Guess That's Life.
Awesome.
It's one of the singles, and my name is Amber Rae Dunn, R-A-E.
There you go. And look her up on YouTube. She's got some awesome stuff. So awesome. Great talking to you. Thanks for coming on. And we'll see you soon. Bye.